All right, they're joining now.
Okay, we're on record.
Okay,
As required by the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, adequate notice. This meeting was provided on January 10th, 2020 by publication of notice in the Star Gazette and posting of said notice in this building on the same date. Further notice was then given that due to COVID-19, this meeting would be held remotely via the Zoom application. Mayor Barsney?
here.
Mr. Beam?
Here.
Mr. Marqueta?
Here,
McDermott?
Here.
Mr. Perone?
Here.
Mr. Finelli? Mr. Lavery?
oh, sorry, Mike, I'll unmute you.
Here.
Mike. Okay. Frank, do we have anybody on watching from the residents or anything? We need to welcome anybody or what? We good or what?
What were you asking? Were there any residents that joined?
Yeah,
Yeah,
is there anybody watching?
we got
Welcome.
one, two, at least two.
Oh, okay. I can't see them, so we'll welcome them to the meeting tonight. Okay, looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 17, 2020. Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second, anybody?
I'll second it.
Anybody have any questions, comments, corrections?
No.
Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes,
Mrs. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Looking for a motion to accept the treasury report in the October bill list. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Anybody have any questions, comments, need anything pulled?
No.
Doesn't sound like it. Okay. Roll
Mayor
call?
Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
yes,
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the consent agenda regarding the police department report, the public works report, the township clerk's report, and the ACO report. Anybody want to make a motion to accept those?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call? Or any questions, comments? Anybody need anything on them? Okay, roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes,
Mrs. McDermott?
Yes.
And Mr. Perone?
Yes. Bob, did we skip the tax reports?
Yes, we did. Looking for a motion to accept the tax collector's tax and store reports for October.
I'll make the motion.
Anybody want the second? I'll second. Anybody have any questions, comments, anything pulled there?
No.
All good? Roll
Yeah.
call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
yes,
Mrs. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Looking for a motion to adopt resolution 7020. It's a lease agreement for a Chevy Tahoe police vehicle. Resolution 7920, a redemption for taxes. 8020 is a redemption of taxes. 8121 is the cancellation of taxes veterans exemption, but I gotta explain that. Sounds like we're taking it away, but we're canceling them owing the taxes. So the veterans will still have their tax benefit. Resolution 8220 is liquor license renewal. For which company is that, Lisa? I never know by the names of the license.
Yeah, this is the last one. Is Ailing is Paisanos?
Okay. You know, is there any way we can hold that, Mike, until they clean that place up? Because it's a mess.
I actually spoke to ABC and we cannot. I have to, we have to go through this process. I have to print the license. And it is technically issued, but they are not open and they cannot open under the current condition.
Okay.
And you could, when you send the license down to ABC, you could say that you would request that they make that a condition of them issuing the license. And ABC is usually pretty good about that.
Okay.
And
So
Bob,
do we
there's
include
actually
that in the resolution, Mike, or we just have, I could just tell Lisa to do that?
I would have somebody make that motion and say, just add it in the letter, sending it down to ABC.
Unfortunately,
Okay, so-
Mike, the way that I understand it is that after this resolution, I have to upload this resolution and it grants their license approval, so to speak, but it doesn't mean that they can open. They still have to get an ad interim permit. There's steps that they have to go through with ABC before I issue it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but we can still ask them to place that condition on. Like, I get it now that you have to upload it because
Right.
I'm old. So in the old days, we used to have to send it down and then we could ask them to do that.
That's
But
why I called
I
them,
don't
because I wasn't sure what we should do, so.
yeah, so I still think we should have a motion to say that that should be a condition and then send that on to ABC. Like, I get it. They might not, but at least you're on record as asking for it.
Right.
Okay,
And
so
like I
let's
said,
pull-
ABC's pretty good about that.
Okay, for this one, I'm going to pull resolution 8220 liquor license renewal. We're just going to do with the lease agreements, the taxes, cancellation of taxes for the veterans. Also, 8320 is the CARES Act. Lisa, can you explain that a little bit? Because I couldn't get copies of it, and I know it's us asking for money to come back because of the COVID. But can you
Yeah,
explain it
so-
real quick?
The freeholders just adopted a resolution accepting funding. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about $801,000. And a portion of that is designated for Greenwich Township. So Mike drafted this resolution so that we can accept those funds for Greenwich Township.
Yeah, so interestingly, the state awarded Greenwich $43,352, but they don't have the grant agreement drafted yet. But you have to accept it before, I think, November 10th. So we won't have time. I don't know when they're going to have the grant agreements done. So the only thing that they provided to me and Lisa was the grant agreement that the county has. So basically, I would adopt the resolution saying you would accept it, subject, and then once we get the grant agreement, if you decide to decline it, you can. But pretty much every town in Warren County got money, pretty much every town across the state. So.
Okay. So the way that it's written in 8320 is that we're going to accept that money. So
Yes.
we can just, okay. 8420 is a resolution to, for the backhoe purchase for DPW in the amount of $108,000. Anybody want to make a motion to adopt those resolutions? I'll make the motion to adopt those resolutions. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Anybody have any questions, comments on any of that or discussion?
I have a question, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Chevy Tahoe, is this a replacement of a different lease?
No, it's a new purchase.
New one.
It's actually quite, it was budgeted in this year's budget. They just finally. it's
Oh,
tough
this
to
is
get-
the one,
Yeah,
okay.
it's hard to get
All right.
close this year because of COVID. Everything's so backed up. We're buying the car that we authorized in January and pretty much in 2021.
I thought we had gotten that one earlier in the year. All right.
That was last year's. Well, we did get one earlier this year, but that was actually the 2019 budget. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. Okay.
yeah.
Anybody else? Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
I'm looking for a motion to adopt resolution 8220 liquor license renewal for the Paisanos. I forget the LLC name, Lisa, but with the addition that we send a letter or a notice to ABC that we'd like to have the property taken care of prior to the issuance of the license. That worded right, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to make that motion? I'll make the motion. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Anybody else have any questions or comments on that?
Got some comments. I don't know, and Lisa can help us out there. It may not be that easy because Paisanos doesn't actually own the property anymore, although I am under the impression they're holding the mortgage. The property owner is a gentleman by the name of Eric Pearson, who is going to reopen the restaurant. And he is who the letters to clean the place up have been going to. So I don't know what kind of control Paisanos does or doesn't have in respect to making them clean it up. I hear there's lots of issues, but the bottom line is we're probably within 4 or 5 days of legally being able to send the town DPW down there, at least with a brush hog to make it somewhat more presentable.
Okay.
Paul,
Okay.
what else do you know? Now that you mentioned it, what are they going to open it up as? What type of restaurant?
Frank, I'm hearing the whole thing's a mess. It's a real problem. I'm guessing it's not going to open anytime soon.
Okay.
Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
5F, introduction of ordinance number 113, 2020, amending chapter 16 zoning section 4.19 renewable energy facilities. Brad, you want to do that?
Do you need me to summarize it or?
Oh,
Yeah, make a motion, whatever you want to do.
Well, do you want me to summarize how it went in the
Well,
land?
let's do the motion in a second, then we'll discuss, okay?
Well, we sent, just so everybody out, we sent it to the land use board, right? So there was discussions on it. I don't know if you want to talk about that first or you want to wait till the motion.
Well, usually we do the motion, the second, then we do discussion, so that's all.
But maybe if you hear the discussion, you don't want to make a motion. I don't know.
You always vote now. I think the right way to do it is make the motion second, then discuss.
Okay,
I'll make
Go
the
ahead,
motion.
Brad.
I'll make the motion to introduce it.
I'll second.
Okay, now, discussion, Frank. Let's
okay,
tell-
all right. So at the last meeting, we asked that the land use board take another look at it. Land use board took another look at it. I think it was a 6-4 vote to support the previous ordinance that was sent to the town committee, which was to allow integrated roof systems, right? So that was the big discussion we had. The town committee wasn't happy with that. I know Brad had objections to it. And then we came back and we told them to look at it again. So they looked at it again and they're still recommending the integrated roofs system. So that's where we're at. I think the reasoning was it was the aesthetics. So they mentioned that a lot of our ordinance are based on aesthetics. That's the reason we don't have sheds in front yards, et cetera. And that they still think that this was something that the town should keep to an integrated roof system. So anyway, that was the discussion.
Okay, thanks, Frank.
Mhm.
Brad?
All right, so yeah, so this version of the ordinance is the one that same version that we sent to the land use board meeting last month. It removes the restrictions for street-facing solar-mounted systems. It would allow any residents whose homes have a south, southwest, or southeast facing those directions is the front or side of their house. They could then put the solar installations on it if it's facing a street. So basically, it removes the restrictions that were in the ordinance before. And the reasons for removing the restrictions are, the solar installations they have today are not what they were 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. They're thinner, they're not as aesthetically displeasing as they were when the ordinance was originally written. They were the panels back then were bigger, chunkier. They had more glare. Now the ones they have are thinner, streamlined. Residents can still do an integrated solution if they choose, but understand that limiting them to an integrated solution forces residents to pay 2 to 3 times as much for integrated shingle solution as opposed to a regular solar installation. So it doesn't force them to spend any more money to get the same level of electricity production. So that's the basis for why we want to do it. Solar panels are great. It's green energy, it's renewable energy. There's a lot of benefits to it. It's inherently beneficial as declared by the state. So I don't, think putting restrictions on the front makes sense anymore. And lastly, the other point was that the way the old ordinance was written is it gave the option to residents to have an installation in their backyard with a ground-mounted arrangement, which I think everybody on the TC agreed that the ground-mounted structures are actually more aesthetically displeasing than putting them on the roof. So I'm not sure that the ground mount alternate solution is a better answer. In fact, it's probably a worse answer than just allowing it on the front roof. So that's the basis for it. So if anyone has any questions.
Just I'm sorry. No, Joe, I just want to add this because I don't want to forget it. One of the other reasons was that they thought that by allowing having it the way it is now, or with the new proposed ordinance, which is the integrated system. If anybody didn't want to do an integrated system, it would give the neighbors the opportunity to object or give reasons why they wouldn't like it to happen. So that was the other reason. I just want to make sure I made that point.
Yeah, but we don't, we only give the neighbors a chance to object when it's on somebody's front of their house. We don't give their next door neighbor a chance or across street neighbor a chance to object if it's on the back of their house.
Right.
So it doesn't really make a lot of sense the way it's currently written, in my opinion.
My only question is enforcement, like who determines that it meets that criteria along the south, southwest, southeast direction? That's the zoning officer, I guess. And if whatever he deems it, I would imagine that if he deems that they can't do it, they're going to argue that's an arbitrary or capricious decision. What's the course at that point, Mike Lavery? I guess I'm asking you.
Well, I think it's a little different than it used to be with like the FCC with regard to satellite dishes. Every town had an ordinance restricting them and satellites, but if you could prove that that was the only way you could get it because of FCC guidelines, then you had to permit it. I'm not sure about solar. I'll have to check on that because it's a little bit different. But I think, you know, obviously if you're going in for a variance and you said that the only way I can generate electricity is to have them on this, you know, portion of the house, that's a pretty good argument for allowing them to put them there.
Yeah, but
This will remove the need for a variance.
yeah,
No, understood.
that's time and costly for them. That's what our concern is that way.
It'll be in, so if they're gonna put it on the front, it has to be on the solar installation contractor. They're the ones that are gonna decide where it goes, and they're the experts on it. And everyone I've talked to on this subject has said the same exact thing. Nobody's gonna put solar on the north face of a house because the amount of electricity they produce it's too small. The amount of panels you would need to generate electricity is cost prohibitive in today's world. You know, maybe 20 years from now, that might be a different story, but.
I see. You're saying that that will enforce it in and of itself. No one's going to put it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not going to spend more money if it's not going to get returned. And these companies that are putting it in, like the last one, I don't know if it was Trinity, whichever one it was, where it was a power purchase agreement, where the solar company owns the installation. They're not going to put it north.
Right. No, yeah, I follow you. That makes sense. It kind of like enforces itself in that sense. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions or comments, discussion on it?
One other thing, Bob, you may have noticed that the vote was a 10-person vote. Normally it's 9. So this was a straw poll, just so everybody knows. It wasn't an official motion and vote by the regular members. It was a straw poll. 6-4.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Roll call, Lisa.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
No.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Okay. Introduction orders number 115, 2020, creating a new chapter 27 to regulate the application of pesticides. Frank, you want to make that motion and talk?
Oh, this was for Mike. This was for the getting the information to put on our website, right? Right. So it was brought up to our attention that a lot of the residents would like to know what's being applied to the farms that are surrounding their communities and their houses. So the town would like to pursue getting this information up on our website. This is a step towards getting that information and putting it up. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah, basically, we really don't have the authority to regulate aerial spraying. That's the DEP's realm. But what this ordinance does is it basically mimics what the DEP requires. So all the documentation that they have to file with the DEP, they're going to have to file with the township clerk at least 7 days before that says exactly what they're spraying, the applications, all of that information. So while the DEP, governs that field, I think the ordinance, because all we do is ask them to give us exactly the same information that they've got to give to the DEP. So it's just giving us another copy. I think it passes muster. And that way people will actually know what's being applied.
So Frank, you want to make the motion?
Yep, I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance 115,
For
2020.
introducing.
or introducing ordinance 115/2020.
I'll second that. Anybody have any questions, comments, discussion on it?
Just, I got two questions. One is, this, Mike, this is limited to only aerial spraying.
Yes. Well,
So,
application
Well,
of pest.
it's any, I thought it was any application.
Yeah,
Mike.
aerial spraying applicators are required to submit certain documents. That's it. I think it's just aerial. I'm pretty
well,
sure.
it says prior to conducting aerial spraying.
Well, actually, application means spraying, dusting, vaporizing, or any outdoor airborne application of a pesticide by any person.
So then, is this gonna, if it's not limited to aerial spraying, is this gonna then creep into residents have to now have their
Now,
protect-
there's an exception under 9 that says nothing herein shall be deemed or construed to apply in any regard to the application of any pesticide as defined herein, which is available to the consumer market, and for
All right.
future application, no license or certification is required. So anybody applying their garden variety pesticides is going to be exempted.
So, what about like a small business? Is that considered consumer market? So like a restaurant?
No, as long as it's not, as long as a license isn't required to apply it, they don't have to comply with this.
No, I say like, if, so we're saying, I just want to make sure that this doesn't overreach and we have to start making residents or small businesses in town have to file this stuff if they hire an applicator.
Yeah, remember,
it-
Brad, they're filing it anyway. We're just getting copies, correct, Mike?
No, not for
Well,
residential,
It-
commercial.
You
This is-
only have to, this is exempted. For instance, if you hire somebody that, it's an outside company that's going to apply it and they have a license, if they have to, whatever they have to file with, if they have to file anything with the DEP, they have to file it with us. If they're not required to, they don't have to.
Right.
Because it doesn't just say residents, it just says nothing herein shall be deemed or construed to apply in any regard to the application of any pesticide which is available to the consumer market and for which use or application no license or certification is required by any federal or state agency.
Now, do they have to file this with the town clerk prior to the application or? does it-
Yes.
They do.
And that's actually going to bring in my question is, how is that going to happen? I mean, because right now, for the agricultural purposes, the only thing they're required to do is if they're going to have an aerial application that has a pesticide in it, is to post something in the newspaper giving dates as to when the application is going to be done. They don't file anything with the state or anything. They keep it in their records, and periodically the state reviews your records. Of late, it's been twice a year, but sometimes it can go longer and sometimes it can be yearly. So the applicators currently don't know that they would have to file something in Greenwich, and how do we communicate that to let them know?
They're only required to notify Greenwich when they're required to file these documents with the DEP. So if they're not required to file documents, they don't have to file anything with us.
They're not required to file documents. They're just
Well-
required to keep records.
Well, aerial applicators are required, all the stuff that's in here, they're required to file with the DEP.
Okay, all right, so that's different than ground, all right.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
So again, just to clarify though, Mike, though, is this strictly for aerial applicators?
No.
It's for commercial applicators. So look, all this does is, this doesn't create any new burden. All it does is say, if you've got to file this documentation with the DEP, you have to file copies, the exact same documents with the Township of Greenwich. We're not putting any additional burden. If they don't have to file today with the DEP, they're not required to file with us, because the DEP regulates the field. So it's only when any of this stuff that's regulated, they have to file the exact same paperwork with us. So we're not putting any additional burden on anybody, except for making copies of their application.
Okay.
Anybody else? Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes,
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes,
Ms. McDermott?
yes,
Mr. Prone?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance 116/2020 as the capital ordinance to use capital surplus to appropriate not to exceed $7 to repair and replace public aprons in front of their garage, and also $9,000 to fund the police department heating devices for a total of $16,000. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Anybody have any questions or discussions on that? Roll call.
Mayor
Oh,
Barsney?
sorry. Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mrs. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Crone?
Yes.
Ordinance 117/2020 to discuss this before you make a motion. Did you read it at all, Mike? You familiar with it? It's about setting the fees for the police department for the road construction, traffic details and stuff.
Yeah, I looked at it. The only thing, I'm surprised that we don't have this in our ordinance already, because I looked at what we have. It refers to having to have a flagman, but I couldn't find anything that says that we're authorized to charge or that we charge. That it definitely says the police department makes the call on whether or not a flagman can be used to the police, but I just thought it was just me that I couldn't find anything in the code book. But Lisa's shaking her head, so
And also I think I put it in the email, but this is basically pulled as a sample from the policy from Karen's other town, just to get this ball rolling. I'm sure you're going to want to.
I absolutely agree. I just thought maybe I missed something and there was something in there already. So now that I know that there is nothing that exists, I think we should adopt this. And then if we have to fine tune it, because right now we don't have the authority to charge for these details.
Rick Summer, are you on? And Frank, can you unmute him if he is?
Yeah, I'm trying. It says ask to unmute, which means he's muting himself. There you go.
The other thing that I just wanted to note is that we did adjust the fees, the ones that are in the draft that you guys got.
Well, no. What should be under for the police officer hourly rate?
I had asked if it could be at my rate. But that was $89.28, or if you want it at the $82.50, that's fine. That's still the highest officer rate, higher than the highest officer rate.
1750 is slightly higher than a 20% admin fee. That's what you want too?
Well, that's totally up to you guys. Typically, we have a 30% right now on whatever the officer's rate is. So that's all, just goes into the gas and maintenance of the vehicles.
Well, I'm familiar with the 30%, but Lillian, do you want to chime in here and talk at all or not?
I checked with our PBA and our state representative, and she and the president of the PBA was saying that they found out that we can charge no higher than 14.9, because if the state comes in to review anything and we are profiting off it above what our expenditures are, we could be fined for that. Mike, have you heard that there's a cap at 14.9?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the cap, but I know that you're not supposed to make a profit off it.
So that they went back to their township administrator, our CFO, and that's where they came up with the 14.9.
And that's for the administrative cost on top of the hourly rate?
Correct.
Lillian, is the 14.9, is that dollars?
No, 14.9% for above
Okay.
whatever the rate. Well, they charge a set rate, $75 per hour for the school, and they charge $90 per hour for everything thereafter, anything outside detail.
Mike?
And then there's a 14.9% above that for administrative costs that goes back to the township.
And Mike, but rather in percentage, I mean, with Greenwich, I can't believe whether we charge 14.9, 20, or 30%, the amount of hours we actually bill a year is going to be a significant profit to the township. I could see where a large department with 60, 100 guys, and you start multiplying that, they're making money. I can't see even at 30% for the number of hours we have a year on road jobs, us profiting. That's just my opinion, but Brad, you're a numbers guy. You might be able to chime in here, or Mike Levy. You know what I'm saying, Mike? I think I have to be looking at his totality.
No, I agree. And you have to remember that when the police are doing on these details, they're wearing their uniforms, they're using the vehicles, right? They're using there's wear and tear. So,
I mean, if someone came in and did an audit, they're not going to find that we made $13,400 on these guys. I mean, it's going to be hundreds or low thousands of dollars, if that. And if you're considering profit, some of that is actually going to be expense. I think it's almost insignificant whether we do 30 or 15 as far as whether we're in compliance or not. Hummer, are you on? Do you have anything to say on that, Rich?
I agree with you, Mayor.
I mean,
Frank, can you unmute Karen?
100% administrative fees for what we do. I don't think we'd make money on it.
Yeah, I think like you just said, Karen would know what they do in Mendham, and I think it's the same.
Yes, so that's how we charge in Mendham right now. And I think we were more concerned about overcharging the vendor. We didn't want to go over $100. So we did a calculation based on what we thought our fees were. So you take into account your administrative staff, like your FICA, their health benefits, their other benefits that they may have, and it's a piece of that, and how much of their day is actually spent on the billing of this. And you take that into account along with your vehicle, because we're not charging extra for a vehicle. A lot of towns actually do charge a flat rate for their vehicle. So once you add all of that together, you could usually justify that $17, the $17.50. I know it's on the state best practices, and I think that's why this ordinance is now being discussed, so that we can answer that question. And I believe on the state best practice question, it's just saying they want to make sure that you're not really making a profit, and we wouldn't be making a profit off of this.
No, I think when you look at it totality, I think we charge 100% admin to make any money on it.
Yeah.
There's not that many a year. Okay, so if we go with the 8928, what's 39% of that? I mean, 30% of that. Karen or Brad?
Is that 2678?
We're not at the 30%.
We want to keep it at $100. Is that what we're looking for?
Well, so if you're going to give, I would make it round numbers. I think it would probably be easier for billing. So if you gave $90 to the officers and kept $10 for admin fees, I mean, you're definitely, obviously, you're at 10% of the $100. So,
Rich, you okay with the 8250, or you think we should go with the 8928 or in the 8090 or whatever? You know,
I don't think.
I'm making a command decision. I'm going to make it $85 an hour and 15 for the town. We're split the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion. We adopt. I introduced ordinance number 117/2020 for the maximum amount of $100, broken down by $85 an hour for the police officer, $15 an hour for the township administrative fees. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Any further comments or questions or discussion on this? Roll call.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perone?
Yes.
Okay. Second reading for ordinance number 114/2020 regarding short-term rental amendment for pool rentals. I'm going to make a motion. We open it for public comment, public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Want to open it up?
Yep. Okay, everybody's been asked to unmute.
Anybody from the public have any questions or concerns regarding this short-term rental amendment regarding pool rentals? Somebody said no. Okay. Hearing none, I make a motion that we close public hearing on ordinance 114/2020.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Looking for a motion to adopt ordinance number 114, 2020 regarding short-term rental amendment pool rentals. Anybody want to make that motion?
Make the motion.
Anybody want a second?
A second.
Anybody, any further questions or comments? Roll call.
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Prone?
Yes.
Okay, Karen, you want to do your update now?
I think I'm unmuted. Okay. So I emailed everybody earlier today, a report that is just comparing what currently we have expended in the budget versus what we actually budgeted for. And in the report, I actually also compared it to 2019, just so you have an idea of comparing year by year.
Karen, did you want the ability to share anything?
No, it's okay. Does everybody have the report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not going to go line by line. I may just point out a few things. A lot of times when you take a look at these reports, when it comes to salary and wages, you want to make sure that you're right in line with where you should be percentage-wise. And when I take a look at this, we're doing really well with salary and wages. One thing that does pop out, what would be in general administration and our operating expenses. Those expenses at this point have gone over what the budget is. And a big driver of that would be IT. And I believe, I don't know if we'll be discussing that later, but it's something that I'm definitely gonna be looking into. And I believe that this year we had additional services added for certain things, maybe with the police department. So again, I have to look a little bit more into detail.
Yeah, just so you know, we have John Paul here. He's the IT person.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, that's what I saw that. So other than that, everything seems to be in line. I don't know if anyone had any specific questions, but so far so good. The only other thing that I did want to point out, the other budgets that are kind of close, financial administration, our operating expenses are pretty close there. A lot of that had to be with the consultants that were hired at the beginning of the year. John Reinhardt, who was helping out with the budget. And also because we did have new staff, we had new office supplies and stuff, but I don't expect us to exceed that budget anymore. And the only other one that potentially we could, and why I'm pointing these out is next meeting in November, there's potentially where you'll see a transfer resolution where we may have to transfer from one expense to the next. And so the only other one that potentially may need a transfer would be the police department operating expenses. And that has to do with the leases. The leases were a little more expensive than what we originally budgeted for. So we may also have to do a transfer into that budget. But other than that, the budget's doing well. If you take a look at the overall expense, we're about at 70% of what we budgeted for. So, and compared to last year, it's about around the same. So I don't know if anyone had any specific questions for me on it. If anyone wanted to go into any specific line items, I'd be more than happy to.
Anybody have anything?
No.
Karen actually answered the ones I had.
Oh, good. And the only other, this is a report that I plan on providing on a quarterly basis. So I'll probably get one to everybody in January showing where we're at with the end of the year for all of 2020 and then ongoing on a quarterly basis. So just so you're familiar with that.
Karen,
Okay.
is this report available to the public?
I mean, I could post it on the website along with.
No, I was just asking because it'd be great if folks actually saw it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it really shows what's going on and the intricacy of the whole budget and everything else like that. So, but we can talk about that later.
Okay, I can definitely add it to the budget, to the website.
And thanks for everything, Karen. I know we don't really see you much this year with the way things are going. I rarely ever see you or even speak with you that much other than through emails. I just want to publicly thank you for everything. You always have the answers for us. If you don't, you get them for us. And I certainly appreciate it. And I think the other members of the committee do. So thanks for all you do.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
I echo that, so.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Next topic on a new business I'm going to bring up. It wasn't on the agenda. Came up in the last couple of days, but I've been receiving a lot of complaints. I think he's got an email a little while ago regarding the engine braking on trucks on 519 by Dumont in that area. So several of the residents have been asking for an ordinance to prohibit engine braking. And, Michael Avery and I talked about them, and everybody knows my history, but and the law is very difficult to enforce, but I think we should at least have the law, so it could be enforced. If so, we could put signs up, but it's an ordinance regarding prohibiting engine braking, and we put signs up on 519 and, letting the truckers know that they're not allowed to use the engine braking. Rich Hummer, do you have any input on this? Did you get a chance to even see it yet?
I just read it tonight, so.
It's a tough law to enforce for police officers. I understand that, unless you have some newer updates on it, so that I don't know about, on how difficult it is to enforce.
No, I agree. I
mean, I feel like we should pass it just in good faith to have it, so that we're responding. But what the new complaint's going to be, unfortunately, is I'm going to start getting emails that the police aren't enforcing the law. I think I'm just, I guess, trying to end one issue, but I believe I'm creating a new one. So I would anticipate in the next couple of months, this has no effect, and then the complaints will be that the police aren't enforcing it. But at least it's.
One question. Why restrict it to 519? Does anybody have the appetite to make it a townwide restriction on truck braking?
I could get on board with that. Engine braking is certainly an issue on 57.
Yeah, I don't know why we would want it anywhere in town to allow it.
I'm
sorry, Rich. I don't want to give Richie more work, but.
Well, it's not going to be more work. I mean, they have to be there when the brake is engaged and everything. That's why I mean,
it's going to be a challenging one to handle, but if the signs end up reducing it by half, maybe it's a win.
Yeah. So I'd be for just extending it to the whole town.
I think most truckers know that, it's like speeding. If there's no cop around, they're not going to worry about it. But I think doing nothing's not the answer, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, my question is, if it's not enforceable, what is the purpose of the ordinance? I mean,
it is enforceable legally, but the police officer has to be there, witness the engine braking. And Rich, how detailed do you have to go for the proof in court? I mean, I haven't done this in years.
We should probably finish this discussion in executive session unless you're going to introduce it tonight. So.
Oh, you think it went too far already?
No, I just,
Okay. Well, we're holding.
I think you've accurately set out the problems, Mayor, which is.
They're no secret. Everybody knows them.
You can't really. Oak Township has an ordinance. Harmony has an ordinance.
You know what?
Really can't enforce it. So
even like
a false sense of security.
But even like what Paul said, if it gets half the truckers to see the sign and not do it, it's a win.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. But we're talking about an executive, and everybody okay with holding that?
Yeah.
we could put up the signs, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
After you pass the
yeah,
ordinance.
there's towns that have them up.
Yeah, there's one on 519 in White Township.
Yeah, Hope has them. Harmony has them.
Yep.
Okay, we're good. Move on to old business.
All right, hey, Bob, before you do that, part of Joe Mexi's DPW report, but we did it together, and I was waiting for a spot to break in. Joe, has he been able to unmute himself?
No, he hasn't been able to. I could get him on chat. That's about it. So
I didn't want to steal his thunder. I'll just review it, and then Joe can go if Joe can hear me. Joe has always dedicated certain parts of his budget for repairing different things and such. And this year, because things have worked out, he has enough money in his budget to mill and repave several streets on the east and northeast side of Washington Street and below Paysetters. There's like 2 alleys there, and I think there's Water Tower Road or something, which is Joe would be more familiar. He looked at the state contract. It came in at $18,000. It can be done the same time Rick Line Hill Road is being done and Dumont's being done. He's got the money to do it. He felt this would be a great opportunity to literally finish paving that whole side of town. and he has the money in his budget, and I thought it was a good idea in his part.
So,
Joe, can you nod your head? Is that right? Let me get to his picture.
Give us the thumbs up if Paul's right, Joe.
I only
Okay.
see his phone
Yeah,
now.
you got it. You gave it to me.
Got it. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to let you know that that's also going to be done. And that was great planning by Joe to make great use of that. And so, that whole side of town is seeing some major road improvements and changes. That's a win-win for everybody.
If I could add something on that, Paul.
Yep.
Because actually today we met with Tilcon on the schedule for the paving of Rickline Hill and Dumont. And as part of that meeting, because Joe sent us an email, I think yesterday, about these other roads, Water Tower and Strunks. We brought obviously Tilcon over there to take a look. Joe, I think, was in class today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he was.
So Jeff Howe attended, and we kind of got it set up with Tilcon to do that. And I couldn't agree more. It was a good job by Joe making that recommendation. So Tilcon's kind of on board with, we need to give them the official green light, but I'm glad you brought it up because, yeah, it's all set up and it would make for a nice completion of all the other work that's been done in that area, for sure.
Absolutely.
Since it's already budgeted, do we need to do any type of?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, that was in his general repair budget. I was just kind of trying to let TC know.
Does anybody on from us object to this expenditure?
No.
Okay, sounds good then.
All right,
Thanks.
Joe, then I guess you're done unless you want to hang into the meeting any longer.
Thanks, Joe, for everything. Thank you, Paul. Okay, we got ready for old business now? IntelliShred, we just want to approve that for Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
The money's there in the
Yep.
recycling account. So, Paul, you want to do it? You want to handle it? Make the motion?
Yeah, let me just pull that piece of paper. Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the shredding on November 7th for the residents by way of the Environmental Commission, and whatever town shredding needs to be done can be done then too.
Okay, I'll second that. Anybody have any questions or comments, discussion on it?
Is there a charge to the residents or it's free?
No charge, it's free.
Anybody else? Roll call?
Mayor Barsney?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mrs. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
IT update. Who's saying that? John Paul? Is John Paul
Yeah,
just going to
I'll
talk?
ask him to unmute.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How you
Hi,
doing?
John Paul. I think, Brad, you had some questions, right? You had brought up, no? Okay, I thought you wanted well, my question really has more to do with how the Zoom meetings would be conducted. I know that you looked into that, and maybe you just let us know what you plan on doing or what the plan is to get a Zoom meeting to be put into the meeting room.
Yeah, and so I hope I can help. I can help, and I say that because I'm limited to the capacity that the division of the local government services has now gotten at least up to speed with providing regulations and protocols on how these meetings should be held in respect to an emergency, right? And so I forwarded some of that to you all during this week. I'm involved with a number of municipalities, as I think everyone here knows. And so what's surprising is on top of everything else that I've been helping municipalities with for 20 plus years is now assisting with Zoom meetings. And I don't say that with any, I don't want that to be taken with any understanding that I don't mind helping, but I just want to represent that I've been intimately involved with this. And from the beginning. And so that being said, what I've assisted a few of them with setting up their equipment in their room, and it's gone quite well. It's helped them overcome a lot of situations, which I actually didn't witness tonight. So it's gone quite well on your end. Latency, where you can't hear people, you can't see some people, people aren't unmuting. So I think Frank is, spearheading a lot of that and seems to be doing a great job. Because I got to tell you, some horror shows that I've sat in, and in all fairness, you can have the best IT guy managing this, but at the end of the day, there could be a number of things that go wrong, right, with technology, and also not everyone was ready for this, right, to take this on. That all said, the places that the municipalities that I've helped with equipping their room, we've used I sent over some equipment specs and components that would alleviate most of these problems and help you present better a meeting in respect to not only having the full body there, the public body there, but also to present, like for land use board, when you have presentations, and then everyone in the meeting room can hear everyone clearly. As we see everyone now, on our screens, you'd be able to see that with a widescreen in the room and be able to present, and then have everyone joining be able to see these presentations. And that was a lot of things that they had to overcome as well. Again, that being said, with the NJAC 539-1 regulations, now, and what the division of the local government services said is that the full body can't be in one meeting room. And by the way, this is not being interpreted by me. This is being interpreted by a number of attorneys, which I got to tell you, we're getting different answers from different attorneys. And so what when you read it, it says that it looks like that you can't have a public meeting without inviting the public in, right? And then it goes beyond that you have to have now, you still have to abide by the governor's regulations of, hey, how are you going to have a meeting and still, abide by the health code regulations, right? Of having 25%, everyone spaced out. And then now you get into a situation of, okay, if that's the case, how do you do this without, let's be fair, upsetting some of the residents or the public that say, hey, wait a minute, who says that this person can attend and I can't attend? How do you manage all that? Long story short, I sat in a meeting with some attorneys last week and some other mayors and clerks, and we were trying to hash this out. And what I was told at that time, this was last Monday, was that you can have a public hearing. You can have the committee members in the same room at the town hall, but you can't have a quorum. So, and in that respect, you'd be able to have that meeting in a meeting room and not have to invite the public and still have a Zoom meeting, and then, no foul. And then I heard they had a call with the governor, and they were going to change some things because, they're getting some flack back from the townships of, hey, look, this isn't, how are we going to even manage this? This doesn't sound clear to us. I was hoping to hear something back already, but I have not. And I'm going to reach out to some people tomorrow and see if there was any changes. So the reason I'm sharing all this with you is, yeah, I can certainly assist you with equipping your room, with your meeting room, with technology that will help you facilitate your committee members in the same room and have it go really well, right? I can assure you of that for the most part because I've done it and I've sat through this, and I'm still hosting a number of these meetings every month for a few of them that have done this. But that being said, as I'm sure everyone who's listened to me go on and ramble for the last few minutes is that I'm not quite sure that my understanding is that, what are the protocols really saying about doing that with the full body there? I'm not, right now, my understanding is you can't. And in some cases, some people are being told that you can't even have a few people there without inviting the public in. And I said, well, good luck managing that because, again, going back to the scenario I said, how are you going to have some and not all and not others and then have them get upset?
Yeah, so John Paul, I think the town committee realizes that there's a large burden to get that meeting room opened with the COVID restrictions in place. I think we were more looking at possibly after COVID, when everything opened up. And my question was, how would you handle if there were certain members that can't be there but can go in remotely? Can you have a quorum at the meeting room and maybe one or two zooming in to the meeting at the same time?
So that's a good question. And so yes, my understanding at this point from the language that I've read and from what I've been told by the attorneys is that, and it's right in there from what I read clearly is that this doesn't, anything that's being done now does not prevent you from broadcasting it for future use or if you want to just do that anyway, regardless of the situation right now. And I find that to be an advantage to you to go to something right now with Zoom and the equipment. Again, and this may change, but right now, to answer your question directly, is that, right now you have the Gramco equipment, right? And you have microphones all over the room and these outdated, cameras. You're not alone. And that's the way a lot of municipalities are looking at it right now. They're like, wait a minute. We're in this situation where we have to replace this equipment. It's outdated. And we have to replace all the meeting owl and the TV and adding those components that I gave you, that I provided to you in that email, and that I've equipped, White Township with and a few others. That will actually replace, in my determination, from what I found, the Gramco. Now, I don't know if there are any other regulations that you have to abide by, but it records, it captures everybody and more. It allows for what you asked me, Frank, people who can't attend, that now they can join the meeting both virtually and by audio, which, if you have to give a testimony, now that is already abiding by the regulations and protocols. So yeah, to answer your question, it should facilitate today and in the future and replace the equipment that you have.
All right, excellent. Thank you for the update. Yeah, I think that's I think we're going to have to go that route. I know, Bob, I think you agree that we're going to have to provide this alternative way for people to get to meetings, even beyond COVID, So we're definitely going to pursue it. So it's just a matter of when.
Right. Yeah. And
look to put it in next year's budget, I would think, but we'll have to talk about that. Bob, you're on mute. Bob.
Is Karen still here with us? Frank?
Yep.
Yep. I'll ask her to unmute.
Yeah. Because I had sent Karen, I might even talk to her personally, but an email. Karen, there was a rough number of around $10,000 to improve our courtroom to start to do our TC room. Did you find that floating around anywhere, or is that something that's going to end up needing to be budgeted?
No, so that's something that would need to be budgeted for.
Okay.
Just because our IT expenses are already more than what we budgeted for. Unfortunately, we don't really necessarily have too much room in there for it. The only thing I could say, and Brad and I kind of had just discussed this, those COVID expenses, the $46,000, potentially this could be an eligible expense.
I was thinking of that, yeah.
And I don't know, and I have to confirm, but it was my understanding that that money is actually reimbursable. So I could be completely wrong, but that you actually have to spend the money, submit for reimbursement, and then they'll give it back to you through the CARES Act. I don't know if they're just going to give it to you.
I did hear that myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some, Right.
I don't think we're just going to get the 46,000. We have to have eligible expenses. So this, I have to look because I know there's definitely, they've put a specific list of eligible expenses, but this does sound like it would be an eligible expense. So if we could spend this, there's a good chance we could get it back.
When do we have to spend it? Is there
That is a
time
very
frame?
good question. I think the whole CARES Act, this is all kind of new. I believe it all just kind of came out last week. So
They
I
don't, they
have
don't
to
even
take
have
a
a
look.
grant agreement yet.
What's
Yeah.
that,
We
Mike?
don't even know. We don't even know because they don't even have they've already authorized every municipality to get X amount of money, but you don't even know what the grant agreement's going to say unless the only one that's out there is the counties, and who knows if ours is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Right.
This definitely should be, I think this will be easier money to get than from FEMA. Because supposedly it's there, which is a good thing. But then going directly to FEMA for it. But I mean, this does seem like it could be an eligible expense, but unfortunately you probably have to spend it first, and then you're gonna have to submit the purchase orders and the canceled checks and all of that. So, I mean, if you wanted to move forward with it now, it's something that you could definitely do a budget transfer for. Just as a thought, or you could try and budget for it next year, but I don't know if that will be too late then, because I mean, we wouldn't adopt our budget until April, so at the earliest. So
Can you take that away and find out, or is that something you do, Mike? When we need to make the expenditure?
Well, we're not going to know that until we get, like I said, they haven't even given us a draft of the grant agreement to tell us exactly if you have to, like, I agree with everything Karen said, but the problem is we're deducing that right now because we don't have the agreements. So I would anticipate, since we have to agree to accept the money by November 10th, that we should have that imminently. But I talked to the county administrator today, and he didn't have any idea when we were going to get it.
All right, so I think we should put it on the agenda for our next meeting just to get an update on it.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks. Paul.
Thanks, Jean Paul.
You're welcome.
Mike, Lee Farm. You have anything on that, or?
Just that I sent everybody a copy of the letter that was sent to me. Apparently, this was a farm that was preserved in, I think, 2004, and the agreement with the county was that they were going to transfer the property to us after the closing. So I don't know if it had something to do with, they were able to get more money to put together, whatever. So it looks like the agreement was clearly that we were going to take over that property and manage it. I'm sure the county doesn't mind because the DEP, the Green Acres restrictions are already on it. So basically we're going to manage it.
Well,
and then,
Mike, I could give an update on that too.
yeah, okay, there you go.
This came through the Open Space Committee and Frank Pinto. So he saw that this was an open issue, that they were supposed to hand it back over to the town. So right now, when that gets farmed, we don't get the fees for the leasing of the property. So once they turn it over, the township can then get the lease.
Yeah, apparently the county's not collecting that money either.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
Somebody's farming it for
farmers
free.
farming it, not
apparently,
paying anybody for it. So
Yeah,
Good deal.
yeah.
good
So,
work if you can find it.
So no action tonight, right? We don't take any action tonight on this?
Well, yeah, I think we might need a little more information. Maybe we have Frank Pinto come to the next meeting, but it looks like it's clearly to be transferred to us. The county wants to transfer it to Greenwich. So I think the question for Greenwich is, do you want it? I think you do.
yeah,
The only thing the county wanted, and Frank Marquetta, correct me if I'm wrong, is they wanted a trail easement, but because the DEP restrictions, the Green Acres restrictions are already on it, Corey Tierney's letter said that, obviously that's going to take some time. I think that's a State House Commission, release that you'd have to get. So we would just be getting that farm transferred to us without even I guess they want some type of understanding that we'll grant them a trail easement somewhere down the road, which would probably benefit the township, but I think that's an open space.
I think it would be for the Morris Canal. That's what they're looking for. The Morris Canal.
So I guess just if there's an indication I can give to the county, if we're interested in accepting that transfer, and then, they could start moving ahead.
Yeah,
If the Green Deal goes through the canal, may come back to be used.
just to be clear, just to clarify too, this is something that the town actually pursued to try to get this back into the township's hands, or try to get it into the township hands. That was the plan from the beginning anyway. So.
Right. Okay.
So if nothing else, it'll generate some rental income if it continues to be leased to the farmer.
Yes.
or whatever farmer is the highest bidder when we auction.
We wish to become the canal capital of New Jersey for commerce. Okay. Firehouse, any updates on that?
Yeah, and Joe is gone now, right? Oh, no,
Joe's
Joe,
here.
you're right there yet?
Yeah.
Oh, Neil, before we got, not Lisa, Karen, will you hang around for executive session? I promised I'll do two things first that I might need you for, and then we can cut you loose.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me unmute you, Karen.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, we'll do you first, then I'll let you go for the night. Thanks.
Okay.
They're quick questions, I think, anyway. So.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
All right. Joe and I had been discussing it late, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but PD was exceptionally slow in getting us some information, but we now have it so that we can move forward with the overall design process to see what it's going to cost.
Okay.
But that's no conclusion, but we are in the planning stages now. Right,
Okay.
Joe? Nod your head. I can't see him, but
He said yes.
Yes.
okay. Very good.
Good, thanks. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation regarding January Kennels contractual issue with the police, public safety at Thomas Stewart Park. I'm adding tonight discussion on the court contract, and we've already pushed back the engine braking. Anything else we need to have put on before we go in? I'll make the motion. We go into executive. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Just for the public, so we're going to close this meeting. We're going to open up a new meeting, an executive session meeting, just for the professionals and the town committee. When that meeting's over, we're going to reopen this meeting, if anybody would like to join. Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
Mhm.